Welcome everyone to a special 500,000 subscriber studio tour here at Beyond the Brick. I'm Joshua and John is behind the camera. You can see his hand there, he'll be chiming in throughout the tour. So we're going to show you the entire studio. We've never shown the whole thing in one video before, and we thought for this big momentous occasion for 500,000 subscribers, this would be a great occasion to do that. So let's start out here once you've gotten the whole shot of the studio. We're going to start out here actually with a very special part of our collection that I love here, and this is our Lego Minifig business card collection. And these really mean a lot to us because all of these people gave us these minifigs themselves. So these represent a lot of our interactions with different Lego employees over the years. You can see a lot of the AFOL engagement team here. You can see people like JVK and Keld and some of the the CEOs and the people who have helped run the company there. So a lot of these have some great memories attached to them, and we love having them on display kind of in the opening to the studio. Up here are a few other various minifigs. This one here, this case has several minifigs from different fan media. So you can see like the Brothers Brick and Zazumgabad and different fan media there as well represented. So it's just super fun to look at these and the memories they represent of the various interactions we've had with people over the years. And you'll see a lot more of this type of stuff throughout the whole studio tour as we go along. But that's the opening to the studio. Now let's come inside here, and we can start right here with a couple of cool posters that we picked up at Comic-Con last year. So there's a lot of various Lego things given away at San Diego Comic-Con every year. These couple posters were some of our favorites for the DC Supervillains game that they were really pushing really hard and advertising for at Comic-Con. And then as we come around this direction, here is our sticker wall, which I think we've maybe shown once or twice in the past, but we've added a lot of stickers since then, and we love picking up stickers at conventions or getting them from different fans and then putting them here to represent the conventions and different fan clubs and lugs around the world. So if you want your sticker added here, we'd love to add it to our wall and represent your fan group on our sticker wall. Up above that is a really cool build. This was actually made by our brother several years ago, and it was inspired by a build he saw at Brickworld Chicago from a few years back. And so he used that as inspiration to use all the green and brown pieces to create this tree here. And I like having that on display in the studio as well. As we round our way here, I'll move over here. This is one of the special pieces, this whole cabinet display area right here, because this has been here since day one in the studio. So this room that we're in actually has been the room that we recorded the very first Beyond the Brick podcast in from the very beginning of what was actually called A Look at Lego when we first started. This display case right here has been here since the very beginning, and people who watched those early video podcasts will remember seeing it in the background of my shot during every episode. And so today we still use this as kind of our community cabinet in many ways, and so much of this stuff here is things we've picked up from people in the community or gifts. One of my favorite is this display of minifigs. So a lot of these represent, like we saw earlier, some of the different communities, all different fan sites, Lego conventions, all that sort of stuff that are out there, and so we love having these on display as well. In the background, there's some of our favorite Brickmania minifigs. That 24-hour live stream minifig there was made by Victor at Eclipse Graphics. I think that was 2015. We sold some of those for charity. Got a few cards from the Lego house, some of the collectible stuff there. And then some of those, Brickmania minifigs are some of my favorite. There's a couple Japan event kits from the Japan Fan Weekend event. And then in the background, the special Orlando and New York minifigs that you can pick up at some of the Lego stores there. Some of this stuff in front, we've got various Bricklink, the Saskatchewan Lego Users Group little piece there, and then our cool tile plates. So this is basically, if we get collectible tiles, most people will give out bricks, which we'll show in a second here, but some people give out tiles, and we pick up cool little tiles various places, so we like to display them here and add them as we pick those up. I should also mention these cool little pins, if you notice these. These were given to us by Ashley Glennon a little while back. He's been on our 24-hour live stream a number of times, and he picked those up actually in Europe. I think he was in Belgium, I want to say, and those were little Lego collectibles that were available a number of years ago, and gave us those as a gift, so it's just fun to have that on display here.
We should add that most of the stuff on display here in the studio is either unique Lego sets that are autographed by designers and that type of thing, or were gifts from Lego to fan media, or things like those very unique pins that just people give us as we are lucky enough to travel around the world to LEGO events, and we've collected quite a number of unique items that people have given us in different countries.
For sure. We don't have a ton of space here in the studio, but we do like to use it to display the stuff we get from the community as much as possible. Now, down on the next shelf here, you can see the background is made up of all of our convention bricks we've gotten over the years. So some if we have multiple copies of them, they aren't in there, but for the most part, that's pretty much every brick we've gotten, or at least one of every brick we've gotten at conventions all over the world and given to us by lugs and different fan media. So this is awesome, and similar to the employee business card minifigs, represent a lot of really great memories from shows that we've done over the years, and so these are a ton of fun to have on display. I really like the different Creations for Charity bricks down there in the corner as well. So those are special bricks they give out to people involved with Creations for Charity and the 24-hour live streams we've done over the years. You can see some of the Legoland Japan bricks there, the hotel and factory brick. So just all sorts of really cool bricks that represented there, and lots of awesome conventions.
We should talk about this book back here. What is this?
So that was done by Mr. Red, who is a GBC builder that has popped up in our GBC builders, I think a few times over the years in our GBC videos. And he actually wrote a story based on an interaction he had with a young girl at the GBC display at one of the conventions one time. And it's a really touching story about how seeing this GBC just really helped this girl kind of come out of her shell, and the power of kind of interacting with the public at LEGO conventions, and what, particularly the GBC can do for people. And so I love that he gave us a copy and signed it, which was a very nice gift from him. We keep that on display there as a reminder of kind of how powerful, the builders interacting with the public can be at conventions. Down here on this shelf, again in front of the bricks, we've got some various event kits. So this is a Brick Fair event kit. I forget which year. Might be a little bit changed up. We've had that on display a few years. You can see the Brickfest Panama minifig added back there. On each side of that is actually some Creations for Charity builds. So a number of the builds you'll see in the studio here are builds we've bought through Creations for Charity over the years. So in addition to the 24-hour live stream, it's always super cool to be able to buy some of these custom builds that the builders offer to help support Creations for Charity. And so I love having these on display as well. Down here, you've got a couple builds on each side of the raccoon there from the PDC show in Portugal, the LEGO Fan Weekend event there. And then the raccoon in the middle is from our trip to BrickCan. We just went to BrickCan earlier this year for the first time and got that. And behind that, this is a build by Rocco, architecture builder. He gave that to us at Brickworld a little while back as part of the special builds he was putting out on some of the builds at Brickworld Chicago. So, like to keep that on display. These here we just picked up at Brickvention in Australia, which we went to in January this year for the first time. So this was kind of a special build that they were giving out there. And then you can see the Brickvention minifig as well. And a couple leg lamps behind them there from one of the Ideas projects. I think it was at Philly Brickfest. We talked to some of the Ideas creators there.
We should mention this minifig that is clearly not LEGO Star Wars.
That's true. So the representation there, so the tile is actually custom printed by AC Pin. You can see when it says Naboo Pilot, he custom printed his name there. And then I'm just using that as a stand for a minifig that we got at the Brick Live show in the UK a few years ago. And that was from a build, a builder had done a World War I era build and gave us a couple minifigs off the build, which I thought was super cool. As someone who's studied a lot of military history, I love seeing his build, and that's a cool little memento from that build that we covered. And there's a video of that on the channel if you want to check that out. If we move down, I think then to this third shelf. So this is various, again, just things we've collected in our travels over the years. The background here is actually magazines that have little sets with them that we've picked up throughout mostly European countries. And so you can see the languages are all crazy on them. I forget now where some of these even came from. So if you recognize the language, feel free to give it a shout in the comments. But these are fun to pick up because these are much more common in Europe than they are in the US. And so we'll pick these up in some of our travels, and they come with the little kits there, which are always fun to collect. Down here, here's a little minifig they gave out again at Comic-Con San Diego last year. And then some various 3D printed things, just fun things some of our family have created over the years. This is from our brand new, just a few weeks ago, into the Brick Vault minifig Brick Loot minifig vault. and they gave us that, so that was a lot of fun. That's a video that we'll be working on here. This was made by John Matz, and it's a little, I can actually demonstrate it for you here, spinning gear ball. And we have actually one of our most popular videos on the channel is a video of him demonstrating these and how he created it. So that's pretty cool. This was a Brick Fiesta event kit, the bird back here. And then a little memento from our recent trip to Star Wars Celebration, some of the things that we're handing out there for the 20 years of Lego Star Wars. This was built or made by Will Heron. I think that was at last year's Brick Fiesta. He was handing those out. And then these are these take us way back here. So growing up, me, John, and the rest of our siblings would create these Pinewood Derby cars and race them in our local area. And a couple years we made Lego-related ones. You can see the liberal use of the Lego logo there. Definitely cleared that with Lego Legal, of course, when we were creating these. Kevin Hinkle has taken over the car on this one. Also, shout out to the Lego Island 2 game. So that was a game we played a lot growing up. It was super fun back then. So we were clearly inspired by that to create some of these cars. I'm going to guess the dimensions aren't quite to scale with the bricks, but, you know, they work.
I think we were about 10 years old or so when we made those. So, yeah, the exact dimensions of the brick were not the top thing on our mind when crafting the cars.
Then down on the bottom shelf is a collection of some of our favorite Lego-related books and magazines we've picked up over the years. And so some of these are kind of like Minifig DK books. We've got a lot of these are different DK books. A lot of these are fan-made books covering various, building techniques and that sort of thing. One of my favorites here is actually this book, Lego A Love Story, which was super influential. And before I really got real involved with the community and before we started Beyond the Brick, I read this book by Jonathan Bender, who's a journalist, I believe, in the Kansas City area. And he wrote this, and it's just kind of his journey into the AFOL community, going to some conventions and visiting different Lego-related places around the country. And this was a really great kind of my first peek into the possibilities of the AFOL community. And so I don't think a lot of people are aware of this book today, but I definitely was influential to me at one point as I was first getting into the community, and I enjoy having that today. Slip that back in there. And yeah, some really great stuff there. So it's Lego fans have created some incredible books over the years, and it's really great to have just a small display of some of the work that's been produced. Then we'll come to the top shelf here. So this sword is another Creations for Charity build that we picked up. Here, this card that's on display, actually, this is just from this most recent Brickworld Chicago. This was made by David Gregory. He made a Bricks Against Humanity. So this is a Lego version of Cards Against Humanity. And he lovingly included Beyond the Brick on one of the cards. So if you're at a Brickworld show or maybe a Lego convention at some point, you get a chance to play, you can keep an eye out for that. Next to that is our stack of Brick Vault business cards, and these are for Jack from Brick Vault. I think he gave us these when we were there last year and toured their studio and headquarters, and we've just set them here ever since then because why not? Maybe somebody will want one of Jack's business cards when they come over.
He said he doesn't get a chance to hand them out very often, so he was like, here, take an entire stack. So maybe when somebody visits our studio, we can say, hey, here's a Jack from Brick Vault business card for you.
I like this little picture here. Let's go create. A couple food and drink items. The Beyond the Brick Nutella jar there. That's a very recent addition from our trip to Chicago. We were actually there with Boone and a couple other builders and exploring Chicago. And there's the Nutella Cafe in downtown Chicago. And they can custom print you Nutella jars. So, of course, we had to get Beyond the Brick. We both love Nutella here, John and I. And so it was a natural fit. This was a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, a gift from the PDC show, which I mentioned earlier, the Lego Fan Weekend event in Portugal. They were handing those out. And then again, the backpack, I think this was from the first year when I went to Portugal. They were giving out the yellow backpacks here. And then last year, our trip to Japan Brick Fest, the Kobe Fan Weekend, they had some cool fans that were handing out. Then a couple of nice Lego space builds here. So kind of represent just a couple of the major space sets that Lego has released over the years in this line. Obviously, there's more and more sets being released related to space stuff every year, and so there's always cool stuff to collect there, but a couple of my favorites on display. This Legoland frame is a frame we picked up, I want to say, from our first trip to Legoland, California when we were very, very young, probably close to 20 years ago now. And that's a photo of me and my nephew there during the 24-hour live stream that we have on display there. So it's a fun way to display that photo. Then above that is another one of my favorite parts of our studio, and this is our magnet wall with our map, our world map here. And so this kind of represents all of the different places that we have traveled to over the years, and we try to collect the magnets when we can, and then we scratch off the different countries that we've visited as well on the map there. So if you see, you know, your country represented anywhere here on the whiteboard, feel free to give a shout out in the comment. We'd like to represent as many places as we can. As you can see, this one's pretty much packed full at the moment, and so we're actually going to start a new one in a different area of the studio soon and be able to add more magnets there. So
since we travel so much, an easy thing to pick up is magnets. They're cheap and really small. You can easily slip them in the suitcase, and then we just bring them back, and they're really cool to display all of them. So we don't have a lot of little knickknacks or collectibles from all the places we go, but just the magnets are really cool, and it reminds us of, we try to get one from as many places as possible when we're traveling.
Certainly, at least represent each major city or different places that are our favorites, you know, cool places we've been able to travel to. So again, lots of great memories, you know, in this section right here of all the different places we've gone. So I love having that up and on display. Then we'll go right to the right here. So we've got some posters here that we have on displays. You can see the Ole Kirk Christensen poster there. Only the best is good enough, kind of his motto. And I feel like that's very appropriate right above our 2 awards that John and I got during our various undergrad college programs that we studied in. So I think that goes well with the poster there. There's another cool poster up top there that represents one of my favorite Lego themes, and I really like the way the artist did the artwork on that one. And then related to our college again here, this was our college kind of alumni newsletter that interviewed us last year now it's been for their magazine. And so this was an interview we did just talking about our history of Beyond the Brick and kind of where we got to today. They sent a very good photographer over and got that photo of us playing with the Ninjago City. So this is fun to have on display as well. That's been really cool to be able to do that and have that experience with the magazine. Down here we've got this is kind of our TV, so John will use this when he's editing videos and like Chromecast different videos and things here. You can see the Xbox One, that's a recent addition as well there. Still waiting for that Microsoft sponsorship. Someday we'll get that in here, but when we aren't working on Lego videos, it's nice to take a break with the Xbox. This drawer represents many of the conventions and events we've gone to over the years, so this whole thing is packed with badges from Lego shows, Comic Cons, Star Wars Celebration, you name it, there's stuff in there. You can see as John kind of rifles through there and finds all sorts of stuff.
Every badge, I believe we've collected every single one from every show we've ever been to related to Beyond the Brick. So we've go to about 20 shows a year now, 15 to 20 shows a year now, so it's quite a few from going back all the way to 2012.
Yep, exactly. Brick World Chicago 2012 was our first event, and so there's so many there, it's hard to display them anywhere, just kind of where you can see them all, so this is just kind of our storage spot where we save them all as memories. This artwork here for this photo was recent when John actually won that in the giveaway at Brick Can that I mentioned we went to for the first time earlier this year, so always cool to have some Lego artwork on display. Then our wonderful collection of cables down on the floor.
This is my cable collection that I know where everything is, but nobody else does.
I think everyone can identify with a pile of cables, and we all have that somewhere in the house.
And we should say that when most of the time we're traveling and not recording videos in this studio, and it's where I am working on editing, and so it's usually a lot messier than it is right now with computers and stuff set up. And we do have our this is my standing desk, and so this is where I am generally sitting every day, but we're typically on a normal day we're working in here. We're not shooting videos normally. It's fairly rare that we actually shoot a video in here. We use it for the 24-hour live stream and then occasional announcement videos and things like that.
That's right. So again, this wooden table we have here actually has been here since the very beginning. So like I mentioned, from the very beginning of the podcast days, we've had this same table in here. And it's a fairly small area, but it works well. You can move around enough. And since we travel to record most of our videos, then just need space for John to edit and everything in here, and it works fine.
We did do this room underwent major renovations in, what was it, 2017 or what? Yeah, 2017. Yeah. And so we painted the whole thing red and yellow and set up these shelves. So this setup that it's in right now has been in existence since 2012. But if you look at some of our really old videos, like the old podcasts, Google Plus Hangouts, that type of stuff, it was quite a bit different looking. But a lot of these things, like the shelf and the table, have been here from the very beginning in this room.
We like how the red and yellow came out to represent the Beyond the Brick colors nicely. But now we'll start in with a lot of the stuff we have on the background here. These top shelves are general part storage and that sort of thing, mixed with different things we picked up. So you can see the 2018 Comic-Con there. Here's a Brick Can hat for the Brickhead. You've got the Bricklink cup up there. This build here was actually a nice gift from Lego. We created some videos with them on the Lego Life app, and they sent us that as a gift after we'd created some videos with them. It actually, let's see, I think on the other side it operates. Let's see if I can demonstrate that here. There we go. Perfect. So you can see how that works. This kit here, actually, we just picked up from our recent trip to the Brickmania GHQ in Minneapolis, and it's one of their new tanks that they just started selling a couple weeks ago. Fun fact, if you look at the number on it, it actually has the number 1, so they number all of their kits, and so this was the first one kind of off the line that they created for this batch of kits. And if we come across here, here's another PDC mug. So they give out lots of really cool stuff. If you can ever make it to the show in Portugal, there's a lot of really awesome stuff that they hand out there. And then an old Lego softball.
Yeah, that's pretty old.
Yeah, that might have been a Legoland pickup there as well.
From when we were in Legoland 20 years ago.
Here's a box of some really old minifigs we just kind of have collected up there. I'm not sure what we're going to do with those, but just collected some of our favorites over the years. This is a 2013 calendar, but I love the minifig head, and I think it looks cool on display here, so we keep it up there just because it looks neat. And then around on this side, you got some of the large kind of castle base plates we store up there, and then a couple other things. We went to the Screen Junkies, one of our favorite YouTube channels, panel at Comic-Con last year, so picked that up, and then one of the Jack Ryan activations there was handing that out at Comic-Con. On the next shelf down, we've got various things we've picked up from conventions and builds over the years. So these are a couple things we just picked up from Brick Can there with some fun builds inside them. This is the Arc De Triomphe in Paris. So my favorite theme, I think, currently would be architecture. I just love all of the various historical buildings and everything, and they're really fun to pick up after you've traveled to those places. So we picked that one up. This was a Bricks Cascade event kit here. And so we like to have the event kits on display when we can, just again to represent the different conventions we've gone to. So that was Bricks Cascade. This one back here is the Brick Can. And so that was, I think, mostly just an excuse to give builders some pieces in some cool colors. But they kind of upscaled the bricks there and made bigger versions of them. But mostly it's a way to get some really cool colored pieces. This here was given, as the tile on the top says, the Lego House Fan pre-opening. So this was in 2017 when we went there, and it was the right before the official grand opening of the Lego House. They handed these little kits out along with various other things there. And so for people who have watched our Lego House videos over the years, that was one of the times we went in and covered it pretty extensively. We've done different videos there. This build here was a gift from a Lego builder in Hamburg, Germany. And that actually represents, I believe it's their concert hall, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's super cool. So that was a very nice gift when we went to Hamburg, and a builder gave us that. Then behind here is the Christmas set from last year. So each Christmas, the Lego kind of engagement team will send out a nice little gift. And so this was the Christmas gift from them last year, which is always very generous of them. These are a couple of very old builds, so for people who have been watching us for a super long time, before we had YouTube ad revenue and that sort of thing to fund our travels to shows, we actually did several Kickstarter projects in the very early days, and that was how we raised money to go to Brick World Chicago Brick Fair, Virginia, places like that when we first started out. And these were both made by builders. So I believe this one was made by David Frank and this castle by Alice Finch, both very well-known, castle builders and talented builders in their own right. And they made those to help us raise money during the Kickstarter to get to more shows. And so that was very generous of them. And these are a couple that we've had sticking around over the years. The Women of NASA, you can see on the right side there, is signed by the fan designer set there. That was another gift, I believe. And then another version of the PDC mug and the Bricklink cup. Here is a B2B hat. I believe I picked this up from Victor at Eclipse Graphics a few years ago. I think actually the World War Brick event we went to in California. I wore this at a couple different conventions, and then I haven't had it on since then, but we like to keep it on display in the studio because the red and yellow looks pretty cool. This was the gift with purchase that I'm sure many people remember. I'll scoot this build over a little bit. You can see the 4 classic sets there. Not particularly rare or anything like that. I just really like those builds and think it's a cool looking set, and kind of the 60th anniversary there I think is pretty neat.
Should we talk about this tie?
Oh yes, so this tie this is from 2013, I want to say. So that's some quite an old tie as well. We've had that hanging in various places in the studio over the years. The company that made this sent it to us to review, and then we've just kind of had it hanging around since then in various places. So it's just a nice looking Lego tie that you can customize. This Fun Eats build was actually made by Nanan in the Creations for Charity builds last year, and Nanan obviously has been such a big part of the LEGO community, very influential in his work with Creations for Charity. I thought it'd be great to own one of his Creations for Charity builds. I've slightly customized the announcer minifig here. We've got a Beyond the Brick minifig in there announcing the eating contest, so a little modification there, but I'm sure Nanan won't mind. Behind that, you've got Buckingham Palace and some of the iconic little red bus and everything there. Once again, architecture is one of my favorites, so I like seeing that. Then you've got Brick Fair kind of tote represented, and then a LEGO Ideas tote represented there as well. Over here, I'll grab these out. These are a couple of some plushy bricks from Brick Slopes, which is actually a show we have not made it to yet. One of the last kind of major conventions in the US we haven't had the opportunity to make it to, and then Bricklink. But the Brick Slopes folks are always very nice. We've seen them at other shows, and someday we're going to make it to your event. Just haven't been able to do it yet. This plane here was actually one of our live builds with Mike Psyche, who's a LEGO designer. He designed this, and then we did a live build with him on Google Hangouts, and he kind of talked us through the design process and everything as he did that. So it's fun to have that on display. This is the Bricks Cascade 2019 Minifigs in Motion event kit, and let's see here, I think I can operate this. There we go. So it's like teeter-totters, and it works well. So Bricks Cascade always has some really cool event kits that they give out each year, and those are fun to collect. I'll mention the Beyond the Brick words here, which have appeared in countless videos over the years. These were made by Tyler Kleitz, again as part of a Kickstarter project in the very, very early days of Beyond the Brick. He was very generous to make some builds for people to help us raise money, and then also gave us the Beyond the Brick letters there. And that was in the background of all of our podcasts, and has always been kind of in the background of any videos we shot here at the studio. Tyler is super talented builder, has done a lot of really amazing stuff in the community over the years, and we've always loved having the words on display there. Then as we move down, we've got, this is just the VW bus Lego set. It looks cool, so we keep it there. I think that's a cool looking set. Here is one of the Star Wars construction figures. We actually built that with John Ho, who's a designer, Lego designer, and he worked on some of those lines of construction figures. Did a live build with him. This was one of the Philly Brickfest kits this year. So the Philly Brickfest show this year was themed around sort of like movie themed, like the Oscars. And so this is obviously representing the Wizard of Oz. Down underneath that, this black box was actually given to us by a builder in Shanghai, China this year. And then we proceeded to take it all around Japan with us and brought it home. And then we have the Batman brickheads stuck inside there. So we use that to display various little builds and that sort of thing. This is one of my favorite builds right here. This was given to us by a builder who actually lives here in Indiana, where we live, named Scott Wright, and you can see him represented there. And he gave this to us last year. We've interviewed him a number of times over the years about various builds he has. And so you can see me represented there, and then John with the big camera talking about one of his castle builds that he has on display. And this is so cool. I love when builders create builds like this to kind of commemorate the videos we've created with them over the years. So that's a really nice gift from Scott Wright, who's always just a super supportive part of the community and really is a great builder. Then this right here is something that we definitely have to mention, the Beyond the Brick TV 100,000 subscriber silver play button. So I'm sure many people are familiar with the fact that at 100,000 subscribers and then 1 million, and then I believe it's 10 million, LEGO will send you various play buttons. And so since we're making this video for 500,000 subscribers, it's appropriate to show this here, and something that is super fun. Now that we've come to 500,000 subscribers, it's fun to look back on that and see how far we've come. But at the time when we got that, it was this massive kind of monumental moment, the fact that we made it to 100,000 subscribers, which was mind-blowing at the time. And now we've just continued to grow thanks to all of your support and the people who've watched and subscribed over the years. So we truly do appreciate it. Next to that, in front here, is another Creations for Charity build. This is from the Chronicles of Narnia. So that's a fun little piece to have on display. It looks like the pole is kind of bent there. Put that back on. There we go. And then behind that is a series of, it's a space story, Benny's Adventure in Space. And this was made by Luigi, an Italian Lego builder who has done some incredible Lego photography over the years. He gave us that at Scareback a little while back. Very nice gift. Over here on this shelf, we have this book that we like to keep on display. This is the Ultimate Lego Star Wars book. This was made by Chris Malloy and Andrew Beecraft, and I think, yeah, they both signed it there as well. So they went through and just charted so much Star Wars related builds. There's such a crazy amount of information here. It's a great resource for people looking into Lego Star Wars, and if you want to find out more information there. Next to that, one of the modulars, the Detective's Office, one I've always liked. I think the brick built signage here and Al's over there is really cool with Ace Brickman and then the barber shop. So that's always a fun build to have on display. This Taj Mahal build we built on the 24-hour live stream 2 years ago now, I believe. So I think it looks great on display as well. It's definitely not the most fun build, as anyone who watched our 24-hour live stream that year I think can attest to. It gets very repetitive, but once it's done, it looks really cool on display. And I love having it here, so it's a nice backdrop for the studio. And let's see, as we move our way down, we can start with the keychains here. So again, John and myself and our siblings, we've collected Lego since we were very young. And so we've had a lot of years of collecting various minifigs and that sort of thing. And so we started this collection when we were real young, I think with our trip to Legoland, California. And so a lot of these are quite old because we actually haven't picked anything up too recently. But you'll notice some old, you got like Vikings, old Wizard there, some Star Wars, Indiana Jones. So even here's one of the basketball, the Blazers there. So that's pretty cool and just represents some of the old Lego themes and keychains on display. Here is one of the new Lego House tree sets signed by the designer. So that we picked up, I believe, at Scareback last year. This is one of the Lego pens, and it's actually, if you look, it's called the Lego writing system. So this was actually part of, I'm not sure if they still produce anything in that sort of theme today. I'm sure there are some Lego writing utensils, but this was kind of let's see if I can pop this open here. 1 second, there we go. It was kind of a modular building pen, so you could switch these parts out, switch out minifig heads and that sort of thing, and build your own pen. Then down here, I'll scoot this box out a bit. This is the Yellow Castle, obviously very iconic. I think many people recognize that. I was able to pick that up with a bunch of older sets on Craigslist a number of years ago for a good deal, and so love having that around to display. Very cool set. This little build here is another event kit from Philly Brick Fest, and so this one represents King Kong, again that movie theme, and so there were some pretty cool different small event kits there. And then a couple neat idea sets behind there. You've got the birds and the Mars Curiosity rover. Those are always just fun to have on display. Outside of LEGO Architecture, Ideas has definitely produced some of my favorite sets in recent years. I think some of the super original ideas and some really cool stuff that have come out of there. Always like looking at that. Switching over, let's see, to this shelf, we've got the Billund Airport over here. So that's the set that you can pick up if you fly. I believe you have to fly out of Billund, right?
I believe that is correct. I think if you're coming in, you can't get to it. It's only the departures terminal that has a LEGO store right there in the airport. And it's the only place in the world I think you can purchase this set.
Exactly right. So you've got that. Then you've got this, which I think was a gift with purchase, the Hans Christian Andersen book. I love that little build there with the open book, kind of going along with Jason Alleman and Grant Davis, their pop-up book, that sort of idea. And then the Caterham behind there, just a cool yellow car to have on display. This vehicle here, what is this from, John?
So when we went to Germany a few years ago, I did a kind of a driving experience thing on the Autobahn in Germany, the famous super fast highway, like the world's fastest highway, and there's no speed limit. And this is the Lamborghini that I drove on the Autobahn. So when we got back, I believe that's a Tyler Kleitz model. I contacted Tyler and said, hey, it'd be cool to make something just kind of as a memento from that experience. And so that's what he did. And so it's fantastic. I sent him photos of the exact car that I drove, and he made a fantastic model that looks exactly like it.
Next to that here, we've got, this is the Ferrari car here. You can see it's been played with quite a bit. I think our nephew has been sticking some minifigs in there.
It's in disrepair. We need to completely rebuild that, but he likes to roll it around and take the minifigs in and out.
That's right. Lego House here, again, signed by the designer. So that's the newest Lego House kit. I think that's the second version, I believe, that they've released over the years. All nice and colorful. Very nice looking. A couple more of those pens. We just had those lying around from various places over the years. I don't even know where exactly they came from, but they're fun to have around. Then this is the Ninjago City. This was a live stream I think Boone and I did a little while back, and it took us, I think it ended up taking us like 3 sessions of live building to get this done. It was a much bigger build than we thought, but it's one of my favorite builds I've ever done. There's just so many unique details in here. It doesn't get boring or repetitive as you're working on it, so it's a super fun build to work on. I definitely recommend getting that set.
And these larger sets like that and the Taj Mahal just look fantastic in the background of when we do shoot videos in your announcements or whatever we're shooting in this studio. Those bigger sets just look really, really cool in the background.
And then John can talk you through, this is kind of our equipment shelf on the bottom there, just where we store various equipment.
So these are old podcast mics, which we still use for things like the Philly Brickfest every year. We do a live stream from there for a couple hours at the show, and we use those mics, but we have owned those for many years, back in the days of the Look at Lego podcast. Those mics were used. We have this camera right here, so that's actually the camera I'm shooting on. We have 2 of them. And it is, let me show you the box just in case you're interested. Here's the exact model that it is. So we were actually shooting at Bricks Cascade in Portland this year, and the camera, that one right there, actually completely died on us. So I had to run out during the show and found a camera store that was actually selling the exact same camera. And so I got that one fixed and then bought a brand new one from that camera store, and we were able to continue shooting that same day. So it was kind of got very lucky that there was a camera store selling the exact same camera, and we were able to just run out there and get it. But it died literally right in the middle of our shooting, and then we got it fixed, and so now we have 2 of these. Just a couple of tripods, which we very rarely use. If you are familiar with our videos, we just kind of almost everything, 99% of what we shoot is just handheld, but we do have a couple tripods there. This is the Canon 70D DSLR. Again, don't use that very often for videos. It's mostly for when we are, occasionally we'll use it for right here in this studio when we're doing some kind of an announcement video, and it's on a tripod, and it just kind of, it looks nice because it's a DSLR, kind of blurred background, shallow depth of field look to it, but we never use that for our typical convention videos. These mics, which again we don't use very often, though we've actually used them several times recently, including our visit to Brickmania and our visit to Brick Loot. Those videos, if they're not out already on the channel, they'll be coming very soon. But it's kind of unique because it has 2 transmitters and just one receiver. So we just plug this straight into the camera, and it's both transmitters going to one receiver, so it works out really well. And then over here is just, again, the camera we've used, which we now have 2 of. And then this is the handheld mic, which I don't have out, but this is the system we use for that, which we've had for years, actually, and works really, really well. So that's kind of a look at the technical stuff that we use. It's really pretty simple. People are always surprised when we walk up and we just have this little camera. Everybody's always shocked and says, "Oh, I thought for sure you guys would have some like big time crew and a mic boom or something." But since we travel, everything has to fit into a very small bag, and so we just keep it really, really simple and lightweight and super simple. So generally, when we're traveling, we just have this mic system, which is fairly small, and then obviously the camera, and that's pretty much it. Just those 2 items. We generally don't bring this unless we have a specific reason for it, and we don't bring the DSLR. We also have a light back here, which again we very rarely use. Mostly we'll throw that on top of the camera when we're shooting something here in the studio.
But that's like a pro tip, sort of YouTuber related tip in general. I think a lot of people get caught up in the technical equipment side of things and think you have to invest a lot of money in equipment or that sort of thing. But, from our experience, and I think we're a good example of the fact that you don't need crazy amounts of equipment or even super expensive equipment to create videos. You can do some really great work just with a fairly basic system. So that's definitely something we tell a lot of people when they ask us for sort of YouTube tips is you don't need to spend a whole bunch of money on technical equipment right off the bat.
Honestly, you could shoot the videos that we shoot with your phone if you had a way to hook the microphone into it. So just use whatever you have. Anytime we talk to anybody who's wanting to start a YouTube channel or improve upon their channel, we just say, hey, if you own a smartphone that's made in the last few years, you have plenty of video equipment already. You do not need to drop $1,000 on fancy equipment.
And then down here on this shelf is just another kind of storage shelf. So we've got this was one of the Brick Fair event kit boxes. I think we've had that on display more prominently in the studio at different points, along with this chess set and the Treasure Quest game. That's kind of one of the early Lego games there. So something from our childhood. Growing up, we played that a lot, tied in with the Lego theme, and that was pretty cool. A couple of micro tanks there from Brickmania. And then some various organized minifigs and parts. So don't do a lot of building by any means, but over the years have organized some parts and minifigs, even though our focus is definitely on the videos. You can actually see some very old magnets there. So the older look at Lego, that's, I don't even know how many years old. See some of the our old Beyond the Brick logo. And then this one here, let me see real quick. Brick World, does this have a year on it? Oh, it does. It says valid for 2013 events, so we never used our $1 off public admission in 2013, but I think they were handing these out at different events, so back when they had the Chicago, Indy, Fort Wayne, that was kind of their main 3. So just different things we've saved over the years. Again, under the boxes John showed earlier, this is some organized parts and minifigs. Just for different small builds will do.
Another tripod there, and some headphones, which we actually very rarely use. Generally, I'm always monitoring the audio when we're shooting at conventions, but it's I just have earbuds so that I can stick them in my pocket again, just to make it a super mobile operation, so that there's not a bunch of equipment I'm hauling around.
And then on this light stand here, we can start at the top actually. So the sort of Indiana Jones hat and whip was actually a gift from some fellow college students of mine at the history club at the college I went to. I studied history and archaeology in undergrad, and so that was a nice little parting gift when I graduated, which was very generous of them, and I keep that on display. It's a fun reminder of my time in college. Here's a Brickmania mug. So obviously we've mentioned Brickmania a few times already. We've had a great relationship over the years with them, shooting videos covering their builds, and they sponsor the videos, and we love working with Brickmania, so it's always cool to see their stuff. Back here, another thing we picked up from our trip to Legoland, California, and I think it was the very early 2000s when we were quite young. Picked that up, and then we also have Kevin Hinkle's art there, one of his Lego posters that he designed. My favorite kind of older theme, the Western theme. I love that. That's my Fort Legorado, which was my favorite set of all time, came out of that theme. So I love the artwork Kevin did for that. Really captured that theme nicely. Here's a cool Legoland Japan hat we picked up from the Legoland Japan hotel when we were staying there. Some people might remember some of the videos that we created from Legoland Japan. These here, let's see, this is a gift from Lino Martins. He is a very well-known kind of vehicle car builder in the Lego community. When we had him on the podcast a number of years ago, he sent us that as a thank you gift, which was very generous of him. One of the Brickworld event kits right here, this ice cream truck. And I like the, they even have like the flavors printed on there. Little Brickworld logo. Pretty cool. And then this, I believe, was from BrickFet. So we only made it up to BrickFet once during the time it was running in Toronto, Canada. But I believe that was one of the little builds that they gave out at BrickFet. And then on the bottom, another cool poster based on the Galaxy Squad theme, which I feel like captures some of the old movie posters very nicely while tying in with the Lego theme. Lastly, here we've got this bookshelf. So, as I mentioned, I studied history in undergrad, and then I'm actually currently about to finish on my master's degree in military history. So, this room and then the next room over, I have a lot of books I've collected over the years and that I use for study and research purposes. And so here we tie that in with Lego a little bit. This was another build that Boone and I did on a live stream there, the jet set there. Down here are some older, more historical books that we keep on display with Ashley Glennon's Minifig Museum of Modern Art piece that he sent us when we interviewed him on the podcast quite a few years ago now. I love that piece. It's always been one of my favorite. It just looks great on display, and I think Ashley Glennon's idea with that Minifig Museum of Modern Art that he created the website for and everything is really cool. And then the Brandenburg Gate architecture set as well. So you can see the little American flag in the background as a nice backdrop there. And then, yeah, just the various books, history books I've picked up over the years. And then here on the table, we showed this briefly earlier, but these are some sets that we'll be doing on a live stream, our 500,000 subscriber live stream later this month. So we'll be doing this in just a few weeks here. I think when we release this video, I'll have some special guests on, be doing some fun Lego building there. So definitely keep an eye out for that. That should be great. Again, you can see my love of architecture sets. These are all locations we visited in our travels, so it's super fun to work on those. And then a couple things I don't think we showed when we first came in here. These clocks here actually represent the time here on the east coast of the United States, Eastern time where we are, and then also the time in Billund, Denmark. And so it's kind of our two clocks to keep track of everything. And then this nice medieval, that was a gift as well that we got, and so this is one of the old like Lego medieval themes, kind of wearable items. So I think that pretty much wraps up the entire studio here. That's, like I mentioned earlier, it's not a massive room by any means, but since we're traveling most of the time and shoot all our videos at conventions, then it works for what we need. There's space for John to edit in here, and then it just gives us enough space to display different sets and community items we've picked up from fans and conventions over the years. So I hope you really enjoyed that look at it and the insight John and I were able to provide.
We should mention also the Go Irish sign. We live very close to the University of Notre Dame, and we've been big Notre Dame fans our whole life. So that's what that's referencing, just in case you're curious.
That's right. There is some non-Lego items in here that kind of encapsulate some of our other interests outside of Lego, so it's just fun to kind of have it all on display in the studio. But
we should say also with some people might be wondering, especially if you're a Lego builder yourself, like where our piece collection, that type of thing is. We really don't build MOCs. We get asked that a lot about, do we ever build MOCs? We really don't. We do not have a large piece collection at all. It's more just these set collecting and things to put in the studio. We're just so busy with traveling and doing the regular day-to-day work of the YouTube channel that we don't get a lot of time to build MOCs, build more than just sets. But in case you're curious, that's where those are. Basically, these pieces you see here are the only sorted pieces we own. So just in case you're curious about, that is a question we get asked quite a lot since we go to so many events.
No, that's exactly right. So our focus has always been on the videos and definitely the people side of the community. And I think if you watch our videos, you see how we really try to draw, each builder's story and kind of what their inspiration is and how they do their builds. So that's always been kind of our focus. And I do want to say once again, thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed over the years, since this is part of our 500,000 subscriber series of content that we're releasing here. Really appreciate everyone who watches and subscribes, and I hope you enjoyed this look at the tour or the studio that we have used ever since the very beginning of Beyond the Brick, from day one, from our very earliest podcast days. So this is where it's all happened, and I hope you enjoyed kind of walking through the community history with us a little bit. Thank you so much for watching.